Fallout 4 and its respective DLCs have a plethora of weapons for the sole survivor to use in their escapades across the wastes of America. One of those weapons is the Commie Whacker, an inflatable whack-a-mole-esque hammer found in the arcade at Nuka World. The Commie Whacker is a joke weapon, and as such, it's not as effective as other melee weapons. So I decided to challenge myself to beat Fallout 4 using this Looney Tunes noggin conker. The rules are simple. I can only deal damage to enemies using the Commie Whacker. Let's get started. After making my character and being nice to the Vault-Tec salesman for once, I name him and sort my specials. It probably goes without saying, but I'm going for a melee focused tank build with a slight sprinkle of stealth. I won't be doing a lot of sneaking, but just in case the situation calls for it, I want to have the option. After spending some quality time with my son, Red China starts dropping nukes on us. So after running to the vault and almost getting atomized, we get put on ice, Sean gets taken, and I awaken from my slumber to start my search for him. After running through the vault whilst getting chomped on by its invertebrate invaders, I make my way to Nuka World. It goes without saying, but trying to fight any enemies in the DLC is going to be a right pain in the arse, because the recommended level to start it is 30. And being 29 levels below that means I'm not going to have a very pleasant time trying to kill the overboss so I can return to the Commonwealth to start the main quest. But I have no choice. When I arrive at the terminal, I run past the raiders and hitch a ride on the train. After attempting to run the gauntlet and dying more than I've had Sunday dinners, I do what everyone does when trying to figure out an alternative method in their favourite Bethesda game. I googled it. Thanks to Auntie, I now know you can unhook the chain from this side of the door. I had no idea this was a thing, and I have wasted so much time in that bastard gauntlet in different playthroughs. After grabbing my wacky weapon from the arcade, I now need to prepare for the upcoming boss fight. Because like I said earlier, I can't go back to the Commonwealth until he's 6 feet under. My first step was grabbing some power armor, which was easily accomplished, despite the local wildlife. Then I grabbed some healing items and some chems to help me in the fight. But right after this, I encountered a problem. When you enter the Cola Cars arena, Overboss Coulter just stands there. You can't even target him in VATS or damage him at all. Luckily for me, Auntie had yet another solution. Instead of going through the front door, unhook the chain at the back and head through as normal. If you get the chance, head over to Auntie's video and drop a like. He really helped me out. The link is in the description. After using the Thirst Zapper to short circuit his power armor, which, lucky for me, doesn't deal any damage, I bonk him over the head until his brain leaks out his ears. Then I fast travel back to the Commonwealth and vow never to return to Nuka World for the rest of this run. Because that was the longest setup I have ever done, and it was a complete and total pain in my arse. My first stop is Park Street Station to rescue my boy Nick. And compared to the enemies in Nuka World, the wannabe gangsters here fall to the floor like leaves on an autumn tree. After rescuing Nick and playing whack-a-mob with Skinny Malone's face, I follow Nick back to his office in Diamond City. After telling him what happened to Sean, he reveals that the man who took him is Kellogg's Cornflakes. So we head off to his house to have a good old-fashioned mooch. After unsuccessfully trying to convince the mayor and his receptionist to give me the keys to his gruesome gaff, I half-inch them from her desk. Then after finding his bat cave, Nick wants me to use dog meat to sniff out Rice Krispies' location. But I already know where he is, so I make tracks to Fort Hagen. When I arrive, I turn some turrets into scrap, then head inside via the roof hatch. To say that the synths inside gave me a hard time would be an understatement. These mechanical menaces fucked me up something awful. So much so that the healing supplies I nabbed from Nuka World didn't stretch very far. After a grueling cycle of death and victory, I change my Vault suit number to 69, die a couple more times, then when I finally make it to Crunchy Nuts, I find that his synths were harder to take down than he was. Because the Commie Whacker staggered him so much, he only managed to get a few shots off. After beating him to a pulp, I remove his brain and half-inch his clothes. After witnessing the arrival of the Pridwin, I upgrade my Commie Whacker to the bladed version. This means I'll be able to deal 16 more points of damage per hit, which will definitely help in the long run. After this, I inform Nick about the death of Cocoa Pops, and unfortunately, because he didn't reveal the location of Sean to me before I kicked his bucket, we need to head to the memory den so we can poke around in the bits of grey matter I pulled off his corpse. When I arrive, I witness some UK conflict resolution, then enter a pod to have a romp through Bramflakes' memories. Turns out that Sean is in the Institute, and someone who knows how to get there is living in the glowing sea. So after having a run-in with some gunners, I pick up some fusion cores at the 4-leaf fish packing plant. Then after gallivanting across the radioactive fields of green and exterminating some of the local pests, I have a chat with Virgil in his nerd cave. He tells me that to get to the Institute I need to teleport in, and the only way to do that is to get a Corsa chip. So I am off to Green Tech Genetics to go and kill one. When I get there, I have to fight through an army of gunners to get to my target. Fortunately, my power armor protects me from these dirty ASBO award winners and their damn bullets. After fighting through them all, me and Z2 have a good old scrap. This is a good time to bring up the fact that the bladed upgrade for the Whacker applies a bleed effect to enemies. And despite the fact that synths have no blood, it still works on this non-natural numpty. After he's been dismantled, I grab the chip, but before I get it decoded, I head to Quincy Ruins and murdered Clint so I could nick his power armor. There are other places to get power armor, but what's the point in prizes without the spilling of blood? After making some well-needed repairs to it, I head to the Cambridge police station to help Dance with his Brotherhood chores. I'm only joining the Brotherhood in this run, mainly because I haven't done this ending before, as I'm not exactly their biggest fan, but also because I get to steal some fusion cores from their suits. Again, not the easiest way to do things, but it's the fun way. After a relaxing walk to Arcjet, me and Dance scrap troves of synths, I burn in with rocket fuel, then we send the rest of them to the Rag and Bone Man. After grabbing the transmitter from one of their corpses, Dance recruits me into the Brotherhood. Then I head to the Old North Church to get the chip decoded. After offing their guard dogs, the railroad interrogates me to find out whether I'm hostile or not. I am. As it turns out, a handful of synth-loving hippies are no match for a foam hammer with some saw blades crudely duct taped to it. Once they're reunited with their makers, I decode the chip and return to Virgil, and he gives me some schematics to build a teleporter. Then I have a wander down to Watts Electronics so I can get the XO2 power armor, because from here on out, I'm going to need some better damage resistance. And all I have to do is activate some towers and kill a few Enclave invalids. Once I've got my new armor, I kill the rest of the Enclave pests, then report to Dance at the police station, and we take a ride on a vertibird to get to the Pridwin. I listen to Elder Maxon chat some absolute drivel, then I try to tell him that I have a way inside the Institute. But instead of listening to me, he decides it would be a better use of our time fighting some super mutants. The normal thing to do in this mission would be to use the minigun on the vertibird to take out the super mutants and their behemoth bodyguard. But unfortunately, I can't do that. So not only do I have to go tromping along the seabed to get to Fort Strong, I had to beat the behemoth to death with my Whacker, which took so fucking long because he has so much health and does a metric ton of damage. In fact, without my power armor, I don't think I would have been able to survive. The XO2 really saved my bacon against this fat bastard. Once he's been dropped like a sack of spuds, I clear out the rest of his oppos inside the armory, then Maxon sends me to get Proctor Ingram to help me build the teleporter. Luckily, I've been collecting loads of junk so far, so building it was easy. Once it's finished, I get zapped inside the Institute to find my son. After finding out my son's older than me, which sounds like a Dr. Phil episode, he tries to recruit me into his little cult. But I already joined one, and I'm nothing if not loyal. So despite me not liking them very much, I'm sticking by the Brotherhood. After planting a Microsoft tech support scam in their systems, I have a route around Virgil's old lab, then I convince Dr. Lee to defect to the Brotherhood. When I return to the real world, I steal some fusion cores from my fellow knights, make some repairs to the XO2, then Maxon sends me back to Ingram because she needs help repairing the Autobot death machine. My first job is getting a really powerful magnet so we can replace his joints like a pensioner getting a hip replacement. Which means I have to go traipsing through a decrepit hospital whilst fighting off some senile robots. Honestly, this part was a piece of piss. These metallic medical staff didn't put up much of a fight, which was kinda nice after fighting that behemoth wanker. Once the magnet's mine, I return to Ingram and build Prime's new actuators, then I'm sent off to get some nukes for him to throw around like rugby balls. That means I have to go into the glowing sea one last time. Which isn't ideal, as going there even once is one time too many in my eyes. After dying from malaria, eventually I make it to the Prescott Sentinel site. And this place is swarming with ghouls, which I kind of expected given that this is a vault full of radioactive warheads. After fighting through them like a hot knife through butter, I come across a religious nutjob. I could have very well reasoned with him, but instead, I decided to just murder him and his pet Assaultron. Then after opening the nuke vault, I place a signal pulsar inside, then I steal some more fusion cores and run some diagnostics on our metal maniac. After half-inching a few more of them, Elder Maxon informs me that Dance is a synth, and he wants me to kill him. But I say screw that. I know it's a direct order from a superior officer, but my inner rebel is way too strong to listen to it. Plus, Dance is a mate, and like I said, I'm loyal. After Scribe Halen tells me where he is, I take advantage of another 5-finger discount, then I head over to have a chat with him. Despite me being a massive twat most of the time, and hating the Brotherhood, I actually like Dance. And he's on the very short list of game characters that I won't kill unless I have to, or have a severe lapse in impulse control. So I 100% save scum the persuasion attempt until I manage to save him. Elder Maxon lets him go, then whilst I was saying goodbye to him, Pyro decided to rudely interrupt. Luckily though, he unalived himself by detonating his fusion core. After half-inching his power armor, I return to the Pridwin, get promoted to Paladin, then Kells instructs me to get rid of the railroad, and Ingram wants me to bring back Pam. But since I already single-handedly murdered their entire base earlier, I think taking out a few stragglers is going to be a piece of piss. In fact, it took me less than 3 minutes to knock some heads and send Pam back to the Pridwin. Upon returning to said Eye in the Sky, I'm told by Ingram that I need to fetch us a beryllium agitator or Prime's going to be about as effective as a chocolate teapot. After painting my armor black, I hitch a ride to Mass Fusion. I had a bit of a panic here because I thought I would be stuck on the Vertibird until I killed all the synths on the roof with this minigun. But as it turns out, if you wait long enough, the pilot drops you off. After turning all the silicon psychopaths into scrap metal, I have a nice relaxing lift ride and a good old scrap, and finally, I make it to the reactor. After grabbing the agitator out of it, I get jumped by the security. Even though I'm dressed to the nines in power armor, these guys packed a good old wallop. Eventually, I manage to dismantle the bastards. Then I head back to the Led Zeppelin and swap to Dance's power armor for the final battle. I power up Prime's main systems, then I follow him like a toddler to the CIT ruins, whilst he stomps on some synths like ants. After defending his chrome backside as he does his Superman thing, we storm the Institute, slaying anyone and anything in our path. After murdering my son, I lift the lockdown, then I plant an EMP charge on their reactor whilst my comrades are scrapping with the plastic bastards. We get teleported out, then I get to flick the switch and watch those lab coat wearing yobs go up in a fungal cloud of fire. And with that, I beat Fallout 4 with the Commie Whacker. The sole survivor conquering the wasteland armed with a foam hammer is hilarious to me, and I loved every second of this run. Apart from the Nuka World section. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, why not leave a like and subscribe? It helps out the channel massively. Plus, if you turn on the notification bell, you get to watch more juicy content from yours truly when it releases. I also have a Discord server. The link will be in the description and in my channel bio. If you want to support me further, consider joining as a channel member. You get early access to videos and a mention in them for being such a legend. If there's a specific video you want to see, or you just want to have a chat, drop a comment down below or message the Discord server. And I'll see you next time.